The shout cut through the polished silence like a blade through silk, raw and desperate, echoing across the marble lobby just as the porcelain cup touched the CEO's lips, and for one frozen heartbeat the entire building seemed to inhale at once, unaware that a single spilled truth was about to expose years of carefully buried darkness. Before the story pulls you any deeper, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of ordinary people doing the right thing, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps these stories reach hearts that need them. The man who shouted was a janitor named Daniel Reyes, a single father who had learned long ago that survival meant being invisible. He cleaned the 42nd floor offices of Virex and Global every night, pushing his cart through corridors that smelled of expensive cologne and ambition, his worn shoes whispering against polished stone. To most people, he was background noise, another uniformed figure who blended into the walls. But Daniel noticed things. He had learned to notice everything since the day his wife died and left him alone with a 4-year-old daughter and a mountain of unpaid bills. Noticing details was how he kept his world from falling apart. Every morning before sunrise, Daniel finished his shift just as the executives arrived. He timed it that way so he could watch them for a few minutes before heading home to wake his daughter for school. It was his small ritual, his reminder that there were worlds beyond his own exhaustion. And over the months, one man stood out more than any other: Victor Hale, the CEO. Victor walked with the confidence of someone who believed the ground existed solely to support his steps. He smiled easily, but his eyes were always calculating, always measuring. Daniel never spoke to Victor. He had no reason to. Until that morning. It began with a detail too small for anyone else to care about. Daniel was wiping down the executive kitchen when he noticed a new assistant carefully preparing a cup of coffee at the counter reserved for Victor alone. The assistant's hands were shaking. That was the first thing Daniel saw. The second was the small vial the assistant dropped into his pocket afterward. His movements quick, practiced, and terrified. Daniel's heart began to pound. He had seen something similar once before, years ago, when his wife collapsed after drinking from a cup that had been meant for someone else at a company party. The investigation back then had called it an accident. Daniel had always known better. The memories came rushing back, sharp and suffocating. Hospital lights, the flatline sound, his daughter's small hands gripping his sleeve, asking why mommy would not wake up. Daniel had spent years burying that pain under work and silence, but in that moment, it clawed its way back to the surface. He tried to tell himself he was imagining things, that he was just a janitor, tired and paranoid, but when Victor entered the kitchen minutes later and reached for the cup, something primal took over. Daniel did not think. He did not calculate the cost. He shouted. The cup slipped from Victor's hand and shattered on the floor, coffee spreading like a dark stain across the white tiles. The entire floor froze. Assistants stared. Security stepped forward. Victor's face shifted from shock to anger in a heartbeat. But beneath that anger, something else flickered. Recognition. Daniel was escorted away immediately, his badge confiscated, his job gone in an instant. As security pulled him toward the elevator, Daniel felt the familiar weight of consequences settle on his chest. He thought of his daughter, of her lunchbox waiting on the kitchen table at home, of the rent notice pinned to the fridge. He had just destroyed the fragile balance of their lives. And yet, beneath the fear, there was an unexpected sense of peace. He had done the right thing. What Daniel did not know was that Victor Hale had not been angry because of the interruption. He was angry because the interruption had ruined something far more dangerous. Victor had built Virex and Global on secrets, the kind that looked like success from the outside but were rotten at the core. Years earlier, when he was not yet CEO, Victor had learned that power was not taken by talent alone. It was taken by removing obstacles, people who knew too much, people who stood in the way. He had watched mentors fall ill, rivals disappear quietly, scandals buried under layers of legal language, and now, for the first time in a long while, someone had interfered. The assistant was questioned that same morning. Under pressure, he broke. The vial was found, tests were ordered. The results sent shockwaves through the board. The substance was slow-acting, nearly undetectable in small doses, designed to mimic natural causes over time. Victor's coffee had not been the first cup tainted in that building, it had simply been the first one stopped. As the investigation unfolded, Daniel sat at home staring at his phone, waiting for a call that did not come. He tried to explain to his daughter why he would not be going to work anymore, why things might be different for a while. She listened quietly, then hugged him in that fierce, unquestioning way only children can. That hug nearly broke him. Days passed. News broke quietly at first, then loudly. A corporate investigation, an internal review. Victor Hale placed on indefinite leave. Lawsuits followed. Names surfaced. Patterns emerged. Daniel watched it all from his small living room, unable to believe that his shout had cracked open something so massive. When Victor was finally arrested, cameras captured his face as he was led away, stripped of the confidence that had once made him untouchable. And in his eyes, there was not anger or defiance, but fear. Fear of exposure. Fear of being seen for what he truly was. Daniel was called back to Virexen 2 weeks later, not as a janitor, but as a witness. He walked through the same marble lobby, this time with his head high and his heart racing. People looked at him differently now, some with gratitude, some with guilt, some with awe. He told his story simply, without embellishment, because it was not a story to him, it was his life. The company offered him his job back. He declined. Instead, they offered something else: compensation, counseling, and support for his daughter's education. More importantly, they offered an apology. It did not erase the years of struggle or the loss that had shaped him, but it mattered. It acknowledged that his voice, once ignored, had value. Daniel used the compensation to move into a better apartment, closer to his daughter's school. He started attending night classes, something he had always dreamed of but never thought possible. He learned that courage did not always look like heroism. Sometimes it looked like a tired man with a mop, choosing to speak when silence was safer. As months passed, Daniel noticed a change not just in his own life, but in the world around him. Whistleblower protections were strengthened, company policies shifted. People began to understand that evil did not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it arrived quietly, in a cup of coffee, trusting that no one would dare to stop it. Daniel still cleaned buildings for a living, but now he did so with pride, knowing that dignity was not tied to a title. He taught his daughter that kindness was not weakness, that doing the right thing might cost you everything in the moment, but could give you something greater in return. A clear conscience, a chance to sleep at night. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with others, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps stories like Daniel's reach people who might need the reminder that one voice can matter. And before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel: hope, courage, justice, or even fear. Your words help keep these stories alive. Daniel never set out to be a hero. He never wanted recognition. He simply refused to let history repeat itself while he stood by. And in doing so, he proved that even the quietest lives can carry the loudest truths, and that sometimes a single shout is enough to wake the world.